Good afternoon and welcome to another OPSRC Teaching and Learning webinar. My name is Jean Potter and I want to welcome you to what is my third webinar. We have done one on just general productivity apps. Jeff Richard and I did one on some NWEA. The one today was going to focus on iPads and just exploring the iPad. I am not an iPad expert, but I did find some tricks that I thought you might be interested in. We're also doing another webinar tomorrow afternoon at 1:30 on NWEA, the class breakdown report, and you're welcome to join us there also. You can find that on my Google Plus page. One of the things I do want to talk about today is the fact that we have been around the state for the last 2 or 3 weeks. I've been all over the state and I've thoroughly enjoyed it, so thank you for those of you who have been able to attend any of our professional development for the last week or so. Okay, let's take a look at the iPad. As I said, am not an iPad expert by any means. What I'm going to do is share my screen with you and show you, hopefully, a presentation I did last week in Tologa. There it goes. And then I'm going to go to there, called iPads in Your Classroom. There are just some quick tricks that I thought you might like to know about if you don't already. Many people do, but I've had mixed reviews about people who say, well, I've used the iPad, but I didn't realize this. The first thing I want to talk about for people who are using the iPad in the classroom is that you can set some restrictions that may be very helpful for you in your classroom. For instance, if you go to Settings and then to General and then to Restrictions, you can create, if it's the first time, or enter the passcode that you've entered, and you can turn off access to Safari, to the camera, to iBooks, iTunes, installing, deleting, or purchasing apps, or various other things that can be done on the iPad. This comes in very handy if you're using the iPad in the classroom and you have several students who are using it, to make sure that they're going where you want them to go and they're not adding or subtracting anything from the iPad. You can also, and this would really help me because I don't like a lot of noise sometimes in the classroom, I can set a maximum volume for my iPad so that it doesn't get too loud when you have multiple students using different iPads. To do this, you would simply go to the Settings menu again and go to Music, and then you're going to go to Set Volume Limit down here and turn that on. I've got mine off, but in the classroom I might want it on, and I can set that at a various level. A lot of people that use the keyboard have found that they like, especially if they are doing the keyboard in a landscape mode, they like to make sure that they can reach all of the keys easily with their thumbs, so they use it very much like a phone. To split the keyboard or to undock it and put it at a different spot, just hold down the keyboard icon. When you bring up the keyboard, hold that icon down for just a moment, and then slide your finger up to choose either split or to undock the keyboard. And then you can do the same thing, hold the icon down and slide up to put the computer or the keyboard back together, or to dock the computer keyboard back down at the bottom where it normally sits. Again, you have to put your finger on the icon and hold it down for a second and then slide up. If you raise your finger up, I can't get it to work that way. Also, interestingly enough, if there are some characters that you need for some special typing, like you're typing in some Spanish or you need some kind of a different character, if you will hold down the letter that you want to type, you hold those down, it will come up with some of the other letters that resemble that. For example, the A with the little tilde, or excuse me, the little accent, or the E with the accent, or an N with a tilde, I also think comes up. One thing that I have used many times in the last couple of weeks as I've been doing some presentations and getting things ready on the presentation is called the slide over. When I'm using the iPad, I was missing the ability to split my screen when I used my Windows computer. And I finally found out that I can split my screen. You pull in from the right side, there's a kind of an arrow there, and if you pull over just a little bit below that arrow and pull very slowly, it will come up with a window that shows apps that are open or that you have used recently. And then you can pull down on the top, from the top, and you can scroll through the different apps to be able to see which ones are still active or you can get to. And for instance, then I can if I've taken a screenshot, I can go to my photos and pull to my photos, and that window is active, so I get a small view of the photos that I have, and I can move those into a Google Slide show or into a Google Doc so that I can use those. That works really well. I'm real impressed with that. And then when you want to get rid of it, just tap the screen and that second screen will disappear. Screenshots. Excuse me. To take a screenshot, you can press and hold the sleep wake button and immediately press the home button. This takes a few times to get it to work, or it did for me. But if you press the sleep and wake button, hold it down, and then immediately press the home button, it will take a screenshot. It will be the entire screen. But then you can find that in your photos, excuse me, in your photos file, in your camera roll. You can open those up, and then you can crop them to show just the part of the screen that you want to use. Then if you tap the share icon in your photo file, you can see it will pull down and you can share that with social media, but you can also copy and paste it into a presentation, or you can duplicate it, etc. So I've done a lot of that when I want to show someone what the screen would look like, and I want to show it in my presentation. I will take a screenshot, I will open it up in my Photos app, and then I can copy and paste it, edit it, and put it into a different document. Reminders, or sometimes, it's hard for me to remember the things that I've heard when I listen to this. So if you go to the iBooks, there are a couple books that you may find useful. The iPad User Guide for iOS 9.3. I think there'll probably be a new one coming out because I think I've just updated to 9.4. And there's also an iPad Starter Guide, which is much shorter. The User Guide has a lot of information. The Starter Guide is a great place to start if you want to just find a few things and really get going quickly. There are also obviously a lot of things online. One of the things that I found pretty useful is this appsinEducation.blogspot.com. This is an older version, but there's 50 useful tips and tricks. And then I think he's now got 100 useful tips and tricks. They may be a little bit out of date, but some of them still work very, very well. And unless you want to type in this whole entire thing, I would just go to appsinEducation.blogspot.com, and then you can search for the tips and tricks, and it will pull up in the search menu. There's some links that I thought you might like to talk about, ones that I would use if I were still in the classroom. The first one is called Seesaw, and the link here is the one on the web, and this is where you would go to set it up. Seesaw is a student digital portfolio system as well as a parent communication tool. And let me see if this will pull up. Oh, nope, I need permission. I'm going to switch accounts. I'm going to go to this one now. Oh, switch accounts. I don't want to do that. Continue. Aha, there we go. Sorry, sometimes the permissions seem to be a problem. If you're a teacher using Seesaw, this is one way that you can spread the word with your students and your parents. This would you just post this poster in your room, and students could take their iPad that they're using over and scan the QR code, and it will link them to your website for your class. You can also send that home with parents so that or something similar to this so that parents would be able to access it. Let's go back to my iPads in the classroom. Here's an example of Seesaw, and I'm going to hope I can get into this. You don't need to be a teacher to do this. If you sign in as a teacher, you can actually use it as a parent. And my daughter did this. So let me let you watch this movie that my grandson made the other day.
Here's where my fun land is, and today I'm going to show you my cake factory. And here's where you open it. There's a gate door, and there's also pressure plate doors, and here is where I craft my cakes and stuff. And this.
Okay, so you get the idea. This is just one of the things that they've done. He's also given me shown me some pictures of his Minecraft, and we'll talk about Minecraft in just a moment. But Seesaw is a free app. If you want some extra added classroom tools, there is a paid version also, but for the most part, I think most people use the free app, and it's a wonderful way for you to be able to communicate and show parents what students are doing at school. The parents get an app, and they can go ahead and access that. You have final rights as far as what is communicated to the parents, but students can save all of their work that they've done. You can look through it, and then it's a great way for you to show growth over the year. Students can take a picture of what they've done. They can describe it as Isaac did on his Minecraft thing. They can draw on the screen. So all different ways that they can save the work and share it with their parents. Another application that's on the iPad is called Shadow Puppet. And students can create videos in the classroom. They can tell stories or explain new ideas and document learning that they've been doing. You can combine video and still images. You can add voiceover, and you can even add annotations where they write on it and circle things or point out things. So again, another great way for students to document what they've learned and to share it with others. I know one of the standards are for the ELA, and probably all, and I know for math also, is learning to communicate about what they've been doing. So this would be a great way for students to explain the process of solving a math problem, or conducting a science experiment, or talking about a book that they've just read. Communication and summarizing and comparing and contrasting are listed in in many different standards, so they go across the board for things that students need to be able to do, and this is a very creative way to do it. Sock Puppets is another app, somewhat similar. Students would choose the puppets that they want to use. You can choose the scenery, the backdrop, and the props, and then as students narrate, the puppets lip sync with the student narration. You choose which puppet to start the sync. You can move the puppets around. So a very fun app for the students. One of my cohorts, actually my boss last week, said she thought it would be great even at the high school level. She said, wouldn't it be great for someone to act out a scene from Macbeth or a scene from Hamlet using these puppets, and letting the students do that. This is a free app. You can buy extra ones, but the basic app is free. Book Creator, let your students become authors. They can add handwriting, music, narration, video, and text to these, and create books that they can publish online and share as iBooks. And you again have control over how much they publish and what the rights are. So lots of different things they could do with Book Creator. ThemeLink is now a paid app. I have not found where I can use it yet on the iPad, but it's a great app. I really hate that it became paid. You would create interactive pictures so that you would locate spots on a picture, and then you would make that a hotspot, and then as students click on it, you could put in videos, a definition, a word, a link to a different website. Students could do this themselves and create this also. One of the great things I saw was somebody a class was going to the zoo, and so before the zoo trip, they had gotten a map of the zoo and had taken a picture of it, and they had hyperlink to the different things that they were supposed to go see, so students could look ahead and see what they were going to see. When they came back then, they could revise that and students could input the pictures or their impressions of what they saw. So a great learning tool. I'm hoping something similar will come out for that. If you've not tried Kahoot or Kahooted, this is a great app. The teacher signs in at getakahoot.com, creates an account, and creates a quiz or a survey with short multiple choice questions, and then clicks play. A pin is created for the students. The students then on their iPad or on their smartphone go to the website called kahoot.it. They enter that pin, create a nickname for themselves, and then they answer the question. So it's an online interactive quiz. The computer keeps track of the answers and how quickly it's done, so it becomes a little bit of a contest to see who can get the most points. It keeps track of all of that. Then you can export those files and find out and actually see some of the who has done well and who needs some more work. Google Apps work pretty well on the iPad. In fact, I've been working on that all day today. It's a little different to use Google Apps, but Google Search, Google Docs, Sheets, Slides, Drive, and Gmail are all apps that are available on the iPad. They're a little bit different to use, but for the most part, a lot of the functionality is there. So if you're familiar with Google Apps, this is a great place to go. And that way you've got the materials there wherever you are. It's cross-platform. If you've got a child on an iPad and somebody else on a PC, they can still interact and collaborate. Google Forms does not have an iPad app, so you would either go to google.com/forms or forms.google.com. Either way will get you there, and you still get pretty much the same functionality as with the traditional computers. Here are some links that I would suggest you check out. One is called appadvice.com/appsgonefree, and every day they publish some new apps that are either temporarily free or have become free, and those stay free sometimes for only a couple days, sometimes for a long time, but you can pick up some nice apps that way. Languages.org has some good iPad apps and has correlated those, with Bloom's taxonomy. And there are a couple others here, iPadsforteaching.net, iPads in the classroom, and then the last one is the appsineducation.blogspot.com that I talked about a little earlier. So those links are all quite useful, I found, for being able to use the iPad in the classroom. Another one that I did not talk about that you could use is called plickers.com, Plickers.com. And this is an app that can be downloaded onto your iPad or onto your phone. What happens is that you create a quiz in Plickers, and then students are given cards that you can either print or purchase, and the cards are very simple QR codes, and the students just hold up the card in the direction so that the right answer is up. So if A is the right answer, A that would be pointing up. If C is the right answer, they would turn it so C was pointing up. And you simply with your smartphone or your iPad would just scan the room very quickly, a couple times across the room, and you can see what the students have answered so that you get a very quick idea of whether your activity for the day was successful. Or you get a very quick idea before you start that activity of how familiar your students are with it, so you know what level to start teaching at. I think that's an excellent app for people to be able to use. One of the things we didn't talk about today is why an iPad in your classroom at all. And as a teacher, when I was teaching in Texas, I remember that we kept looking for something that we could improve our classroom activities. And so we would buy a digital camera, and we bought a video camera, and we bought a document camera, and we bought this, and we bought that. Well, the wonderful thing about the iPad is that it replaces a lot of those. It's relatively durable. Obviously, you need to take some care of it, but it's relatively durable. You have the camera, both facing you or away from you so you can use the camera. Takes pretty darn good video movies, and you can edit them in iMovie. It's extremely intuitive. I've always impressed with how quickly students pick up on how to use some of the things that take me a long time to do. Students can pick up on it. Would I use the iPad for a general word processing or creating Google Slides on a regular basis? Probably not. I am old enough or set in my ways enough that I like to have the keyboard. Does it replace a regular computer for doing word processing or creating slides? No, it really doesn't. But for students who are doing basic word processing, collaborating on slides, collaborating on Google Sheets, it will work very, very well. And it's extremely intuitive to use for very young students all the way up into college. Okay, I'm going to switch back to I'm going to try to switch back. There we go. I see that there are no questions, so I'm going to stop screen sharing for the moment. I want to thank you for attending today. If there are no questions, I'm going to close off for now, and I will see you next month. Thanks for joining me. This is Jean Potter. If you need to email me, my email address is jean.potter@opsrc.net. Thank you again for joining me, and I will see you later. Goodbye.